Welcome, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today for the Holistic Agroecological Approaches webinar. I'm Paula, and I'll be your host for the next couple of hours. Also next to me is my colleague Beatriz, who will ensure everything goes well and smooth. This session brings together advisors, practitioners, and researchers from all across Europe to share practical agroecological insights from pest control to intercropping to forestry and digital advisory tools. First, some instructions for the webinar. We have disabled your microphones, but you can use the chat to ask questions or communicate with us during the webinar. After each session, we will have a short Mentimeter quiz to know if you have paid attention enough to the speaker. I'm joking, but also so that questions and comments can arise and it can be an interactive webinar. For those who are not used to use Mentimeter, no worries. We will explain how it works. You will only need a mobile phone with internet connection. So to kick things off, we will start with something colorful, flower strips, and how they can help natural enemies keep pest pressure under control. We will start with Noelia Telletxea from Navarre Institute of Agri-Food Technologies and Infrastructure. She will present us use of flower strips for natural enemies for pest control. Noelia, whenever you are ready, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to share my screen. Let me see. Let's see if it works. Can you see it?
Yes, thanks,
Okay.
Noelia.
Wait a minute. Now. So, good morning, everyone. I'm Noelia Telletxea. I work in INTIA in crop protection area. And in this short presentation, I want to show you our experience using flower strips to increase natural enemies for pest control. In recent years, we are talking a lot about service plants, which are plants that are used not for their commercial value, but for their ability to provide ecosystem services. The list of ecosystem services is long, but in this case, we are interested in the regulation of pests and diseases. This regulation can be done directly if the service plan itself contributes to reduce the level of pest in the crop, for example, by repellency, or it can be done indirectly, and this is the case of flower strips. What we want is to increase the number of natural enemies by providing food resources and shelter, and then these enemies will control pests in the crops. In the triangle in the right, you can see we represent there the integrated pest management techniques with preventive measures at the bottom and the use of pesticides at the top. And as you can see, the promotion of beneficial is a preventive measure that we have to prioritize in order to boost beneficials and reduce or help control pests and reduce the use of pesticides. Regarding the use of flower strips, it's more common to see them in greenhouses and in permanent crops, but it's not so common to see them in annual crops because of the disturbances that we have in these kind of crops. Farmers don't use them much because it's not easy to see the efficacy of the technique, but also because they usually want quick solutions. And this is not a quick solution. It's something very helpful, very interesting, but it's something complementary and preventive. So it's not something that it has a rapid effect like a pesticide. There are a lot of studies about the use of flower strips, and most of them confirm that there is an increase in the number of beneficial insects, but this effect is significant only if the strip has more than one species. And if we add more and more species, we will have more diversity of beneficials in our crops. About the effect on pests, this is more variable, and the studies say that it depends on the study. It's more variable. We have some experience using flower strips in Sartaguda, which is one of our experimental farms. And after many years using flower strips, we can say that we have very, very high levels of beneficial insects in this farm. Also with a very high diversity. We have some studies about this. You can see in the right in this graph the high diversity of families of beneficial that we have in the farm. And in the left, you can see in this graph that the number of beneficials in this farm is much higher in a flower strip than in other ecological infrastructures such as hedges or wild flora. We see also some effects on pests. Of course, we have a lot of problems with pests, and there are some pests that are very difficult to control with auxiliaries. But we can say that sometimes we see like a balance. We have the pest, but we have a lot of auxiliaries, so there is no explosion of the pest, and a lot of times we see like everything is under control. We see the pest, we see a lot of auxiliaries, and we have like a balance, as I said. We use different types of service plants. We use flower strips in the greenhouse and also outdoors in open field. And we also use bunker plants in greenhouse because this is a great way to increase parasitic wasps to improve aphid control in the greenhouses. After some years using flower strips, we know that it's very important, it's crucial to establish them very early. We can have pests and problems in the crop from the beginning, so it's very important to anticipate and to be ready with flowers in order to attract auxiliaries very, very early to anticipate and resolve problems as soon as possible, because if not, we will go always behind the pest. This is something that we have seen in our trials. In order not to lose space, well, you can see in the picture that they are planting cucumbers in April, May, and there is in the margin, there is a flower strip that it's already full of flowers, so we will have auxiliaries there to go to control Apis gossypii very, very early in the crop. In order not to lose space, we use them in non-productive areas, field margins, also outside the greenhouse in order to retain them during the winter. And inside the field, we try to put some sections of flower strips also, and we use the sprinkler irrigation lines. You can see also in the photo above that in the greenhouse we have a lot of Lobularia maritima and calendula, and it's before planting. We don't have crop, and we already have a lot of flowers of calendula and Lobularia in the greenhouse in February, more or less. One of the most important things is the selection of the species. There are some species that are very interesting and very attractive when planted alone to attract enemies, but the most interesting is to mix them, because that way we will have different colors, different families and heights, and we will attract a higher diversity of fauna. Also, with the mixtures, we ensure that we will have continuous flowering. It's very interesting to prepare this kind of calendars to ensure that we will have flowers during all the summer, during the spring and the summer, and that we will attract enemies all the time. We need flowers with a lot of, well, a lot of flowers, and flowers with a lot of pollen and nectar. And we need flowers that are interesting from the point of view of pest control. This means that there are a lot of species that are very beautiful, and but then they are not interesting because they don't attract enemies. So it's very important to consider this information. For that purpose, we have in Sartaguda what we call the catalog of species, and it's a very interesting, this is a very interesting field because every year we put different species alone in order to monitor them and to get information about them, the development, the auxiliaries or the beneficials they attract, if they attract any pest. So this information is very difficult to get when they are mixed. But so it's very interesting to have them alone and to get this information about the species. In Life Agrointegra project, some years ago, we could confirm that there is a movement of beneficials between the flower strip and the crop. You can see in the graph for Orius, pirate bugs, that most of the adults are in the flower strips, while most of the nymphs are in the crop. This means that adults are in the flower strip because they want or they need food resources, they need pollen and nectar, but then they move to the crop to lay eggs. And that's why then we have all the nymphs there preying on aphids. This was a very interesting result because it's very difficult to see this movement of beneficials between the strip and the crop. In the same project, we could see that there is an influence of the distance to the flower strip. In a tomato crop, we had like a big or a long flower strip, and we measured the crop at different distances, 5, 15, 30, and 50 meters. And we saw that the number of beneficial decreased as we moved away from the strip. And that's why now we recommend to include flower strips inside the field, as I said before, in irrigation lines or somewhere, because it's interesting also not to have them only in the margin, but also inside the field. Okay, I chose some interesting species. There are a lot, but I chose some of them because we didn't have much time. Lobularia maritima and Calendula officinalis, these species are very interesting because the flowering is very early. Lobularia maritima they are very interesting for the greenhouse too. Lobularia maritima, it has a white flower that is very attractive for syrphis, parasitic wasps, and allotrips. We have to be careful if we use them with we use it with a cruciferous crop because it's a crucifera and it attracts a lot of Plutella xylostella. It can be also a trap crop, but we have to be careful with this issue. The other one is Calendula officinalis, very, very interesting to attract mirids. Our calendulas are full of Macrolophus, but also it attracts a lot of Nesidiocoris. And it's very interesting to combine it with a tomato crop. There are some species that are interesting because they attract specific aphids. Of course, bunker plants that I mentioned before. But another one, for example, there are more, but Centaurea cyanus, it has also a specific aphid, Macrosiphoniella. It attracts a lot of different auxiliaries, but it attracts a lot of ladybugs in the spring, and it's very, very interesting for this issue. Other species like Facelia tanacetifolia and Borago officinalis, this family is very interesting because they attract a lot of auxiliaries, but they are very, very interesting as attracting pollinators, bees and other pollinators, as Coleoptera and other species. Very interesting in the spring. And then a lot of interesting species. You have there a list, but there are more. I only chose some of them. So different colors, different heights, as I said before. And to conclude, I would like to say that flower strips, as you see, contribute to increase the number of beneficials in our crops. Of course, it's something complementary, but we have seen that if we used over time, it can contribute significantly to pest control, especially for some pests. And we know that combined with biological control releases that we also do in Sartagude, the effects improves considerably, and we achieve to maintain them every year. So the number of beneficials is higher and higher if we combine flower strips with some releases. And that was all from my side. Thank you very much for your attention.
Many thanks, Noelia. It's been a great start and a reminder that biodiversity and agriculture can help each other. Now we will, well, if somebody has any questions, they can write on the chat for Noelia and she will try to answer them. And also we can start with the Mentimeter. Please, people that are joining us online, grab your phone and scan the QR you have in the screen. And we will start with the Mentimeter and we'll have the first two questions regarding Noelia's presentation about flower strips.
Who is in the room to
And also a reminder, the people that it's in the room, face to face, write down, enter the Mentimeter using your team number, okay? Because, yeah, for the people that has joined us online, we are also people face to face in another room, a total of 45 people, and everybody's participating in this Mentimeter, so it's going to be really interesting. We are waiting people to enter the Mentimeter and we will move to the questions. Let's see if people have paid attention. Okay, we have 55 people playing that have joined the Mentimeter. Okay. So, first question, flower strips can be considered a type of service plant that contribute to pest control indirectly because they A, emit volatile compounds that repel pests, B, provide food resources and shelter that your favor beneficial insects, or C, make a physical barrier that prevents pests from entering the crop. Okay, now the second one.
Oh, these are the results.
Oh, the results. Yes, sorry. Okay, we have team 2 winner, but following from Tanya and Anton, then Andrea, at high points, I see. Good work, everybody. So now the second question regarding flower strips. Which one of the following statements is true? Many species aren't needed to increase natural enemy diversity. Continuous flowering of the strips attracts varied beneficial insects, or the timing of the flower strip establishment doesn't affect the pest control.
Yes.
Okay.
Good work.
Okay. Yeah. People agree a lot and they have paid attention. That's really nice. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, Tanya now goes to the first winner. Okay. So many thanks, Noelia. It's been a pleasure. Now we have Johannes Storch, a farmer from Life to Give farm in Dickendorf. Well, sorry, are there any questions in the chat? I haven't checked, not so far. Remind you, like, if you have any questions regarding Noelia's presentation, you can ask them in the chat. but I will keep looking for it if there is any question. So as I was saying, now we have Johannes Storch, a farmer from Live to Give farm in Dickendorf, bringing hands-on experience with mulch systems and rotational no-till vegetable production. Johannes, whenever you are ready, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I will share my screen. Okay.
Perfect. We can see it.
Yes, I'm Johannes Storch. Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm a farmer from Germany, and I studied organic agriculture at University of Kassel. And I will talk about mulch systems and rotational no-till in vegetable farming and our experiences from the last 15 years. Yes, since 2011, I work on Live to Give Biohof Dickendorf, and we have a farm of 20 hectare total, and we grow 5 hectares of vegetables for regional markets. And yes, in the beginning, we asked ourselves, how can we combine vegetable farming with increasing of soil fertility? And it's a difficult task, but we looked into nature and asked ourselves, how can we mimic what nature is doing? And we saw mainly two principles. First of all, always roots, and secondly, always cover. And yeah, how to implement this on a farm in vegetables is a difficult task, I have to admit, but I would like to share our experiences. And yes, for permanent root cover, we start with a winter hard annual cover crop. Yes, mainly rye we use, but also triticale in combination with hairy veg. And yes, this cover crop makes a beautiful soil structure, as you can see in this short movie or video. I wrote here, soil cultivation is neither necessary nor helpful under these conditions. And this is our basic for no-till crops in vegetable farming. Yes, the cover crop provides, of course, a nice soil structure and roots, but also biomass. So we have here our first mulch system, which I would like to present, which is in situ mulch. That means it's produced and used on the spot. And the cover crop, we let it grow until flowering. And completed flowering allows termination of the cover crop. That's interesting. And we terminate the cover crop with the flail mower. So we have the material small, and we can use it as a mulch. The cover crop itself needs at least 10 tons of dry matter per hectare of biomass in order to have that's the prerequisite for successful no-till crop, for weed control and for other issues. Yeah. Yeah, we use the flame mower to be more flexible. It's more flexible, more precise than a roller crimper, you might ask yourself, but that's the reason. And yeah, we don't always have a cover crop ready though. So when we needed the flowering stage to terminate it, but that's only once, twice, or 3 times in a year the case. But we plant in vegetable farming like every 1 week or every 2 weeks a crop. So we need other systems too. And for this, we have the transferred mulch system on our farm. So it's completely different thing because we harvest the biomass from, for example, grassland or from a cover crop and transport it to the vegetable field and spread it on the cultivated soil. Especially early crops can be done like this when no cover crop is ready. And the important point here is, though, that the spreading or the mulch layer is spread very evenly. We need around 8 to 10 centimeters of mulch layer to suppress weeds. The problem here, in comparison to no-till planting, is that through the soil cultivation, seeds of the weeds are stimulated to grow. So it needs to be suppressed by an even and thick mulch layer. The third system, we call it combined mulch because it's a combination of these two. We have the in situ mulch, the cover crop there. We flail mow it and add another layer of 2 or 3 centimeters of transferred mulch in order because sometimes it might not be enough biomass from the cover crop, or because the cover crop itself did not flower yet. So we suppress the regrowth of the rye when it is in the shooting phase with some transferred mulch to suppress the cover crop. And like this, we have a no-till planting as well. And actually, this is the mostly used system on our farm because it has the least risks and has the nicest effects on soil and crop. Yes, then we plant into the covered field with a planter, which we developed here on our farm. Here, a short video. I hope your connection or my connection is well enough to see it. It's a transplanting machine which cuts the mulch open. So you see here heavy mulch or deep mulch systems. And behind this red disc, there's a cutting unit which is actively cutting the mulch open. Then follows the planting shoe, and the rollers in the back, they close the mulch again. Yes, also some irrigation can be done while planting, which is very efficient with mulch. And here you see Savoy cabbage planted into transferred mulch. And these fingers, they keep the plants upright so that they're not covered with the mulch. And the rollers, they close the slit again so that no weeds will grow in the planting row. Yes, so our crops are cabbage. We grow 50 different crops, but here are some examples. Yes, cabbage is a very interesting crop. We also saw some effects on pests actually through mulch. Here we had a 3-year experiment on our farm, and we saw that the cabbage white butterfly did not affect the crop with organic mulch, but with the plastic mulch, it was eaten pretty heavily. Zucchini we grow, which makes very clean fruits. It's very important. Also, important point here with the mulch system, which we realize is that the water supply for the crops is very evenly because there's no evaporation actually anymore happening. So we can reduce irrigation at least by half, but most of the years we don't need to irrigate our crops. And yeah, that's a benefit. We grow celeriac. We also grow lettuce. And interesting with lettuce is that we have a very healthy crop because the mulch surface infiltrates water very quickly, and after rain, the water or the surface is dry. So the leaves of the crop are always on a drier microclimate than without mulch. So we have less fungus diseases on most of our crops. Leeks is beautiful crop in mulch, can reach very high yields. Onions is interesting because it suppresses the weeds very efficiently, as it doesn't make any canopy closure. Green beans. And also another effect is that we have protection against erosion and high water infiltration. This is especially interesting for carrots. We sow carrots into mulch as well. Important point here is only that you leave the planting or the sowing slit open so that germination is happening. And you may ask, okay, what is with the weeds which grow in this open slit? Yes, it can happen, but with in situ mulch, we have the interesting point of allelopathy. So root exudations from the rye, which suppresses wheat grow. But if you wait 1 week, it doesn't suppress the carrots. So we have a wheat-free germination of carrots. Yes, and with carrots, we have the difficulty of weeds in between the rows with in situ mulch. This can happen. So we ask ourselves, how can we have a mechanical weeding system in the mulch system? And for this, we have a machine which rotates like a rotavator, which can cut weeds in mulch and clean itself very easily. And like this, we can also control weeds, although there is a mulch layer. Yeah, at this point, you can implement an undersowing for more root penetration. For example, winter rye for winter vegetables, as we don't have a cover crop afterwards. But mostly we sow a cover crop after the harvest of the vegetables, but into the residual mulch of the crop. So there is some mulch layer left, very thin, and we sow into that mulch layer with a rotoseeder, which is actually a reverse rototiller, but is working very shallow, like 2 to 4 centimeters, undercutting the mulch, lifting the mulch and some soil up. And here is then the point where we put our seeds on the ground at working depth. So like 2 to 4 centimeters, we sow the seeds, and the mulch is covering the seeds again. And like this, we sow the cover crop into a mulch layer. This is how it looks then, the legumes in the future planting rows and the rye between. And like this, the soil is covered also over winter. Yeah, that sounds everything very nice. We have, although, one point which we realized: we cannot keep this no-till cycle up for many years in organic farming, because perennial weeds like grasses and also some root-spreading weeds increased more and more. So we saw the necessity of rotational tillage. So we used the cultivator from time to time, like every 2 years, as needed, to prepare again another no-till crop or no-till cycle. So I think we cannot keep a no-till cycle in organic farming up for many years without glyphosate. Yeah. My time is up, I guess. I have one more point, if I'm allowed to.
Yes, we have time enough. Yes, you can go ahead.
Yes, what we see is on this picture, it's very interesting. We often observe this, that the roots of the cabbage, for example, or of the crops generally, grow out of the soil into the mulch layer. You see these fine, hairy roots in the mulch. And what do they look for? Of course, some water might be there, but also nutrients, of course. And a 3-year experiment on our farm, together with other institutes, showed that there are some nutrients available for the crop through the mulch layer. The question is only how much. And I have one result here. You see on the left table different mulch materials like rye hairy vetch, which we use a lot on our farm, but also natural grassland and so on. Also clover grass and clover grass silage, which we don't use on our farm. So the question is, how much is in there? In a mulch layer of 15 tons of dry matter, which we need for weed control, there's around 220 kilograms of nitrogen in such a mulch layer. Quite a lot. The cover crop, yeah, it looks big and so on, but the question is how much is available for the cabbage in this case. And we saw it's depending a lot on the CN ratio of the material itself, of the mulch material, how it releases nutrients. And the results of this study showed that a CN ratio of 30, which rye hairy vetch has around, releases 20% of nitrogen in 12 weeks for a cabbage crop, or it makes it available. And so of the 220 kilograms, around 45 kilograms is available for the crop. Not much. We see an effect over 3 years that the rest of the nitrogen is available, but for the first year of the crop, this is the case. Clover grass with a CN ratio of 15, around 50% is available, and from a CN ratio under 40, nothing or even minus is available. So nitrogen fixation, is that the right word? So yeah. So this were the results, and this is the reason why we also rather use CN ratios, rather high CN ratios to control the nitrogen release, and rather fertilize a little bit underfoot with while planting, and then we have a controlled crop. Thank you very much. I'm finished. We have a network for mulch systems around Germany, but it spreads around Europe. So this is our community. Thank you. Now I'm open for questions.
Yeah, many thanks, Johannes. It's always really a great opportunity to have farmers so advisors can hear directly from the practice. So thank you so much for your presentation. Before moving to the Mentimeter and Johannes' questions, we saw there are a lot of questions for Noelia in the question and answer part in the Zoom. I can read them first, and Noelia, I will give you the floor to answer them. First one is from Silvia Theodoris, which asks if also non-beneficial pests that could hide or use those flowers with negative effects.
Well, we have seen that sometimes the flower strip can act as a trap crop, which is also interesting. For example, in the case of some Asteraceae in the Asteraceae families, Cosmos bipinnatus or Thynia elegans, for example, the flowers are very big and they are very attractive for Helicoverpa armillera or some Lepidoptera, Autographa gamma, for example. So in this case, we consider that they prefer the flowers than the crop. So this will be very interesting. Before I mentioned the case of Lobularia maritima, which it attracts a lot of Plutella silostella, and I saw in a study that there was an influence of this Plutella in Plutellas of cruciferous crops. So I don't have my own information about this, so I don't know, but I recommend to be careful with this Lobularia maritima, which is a very, very interesting species, but be careful if you combine it with a broccoli, for example, because it can be a problem.
Okay. Thanks. Also, Henry Yandri wants to know how big is the influence of using pest control plants in reducing attacks from
Okay, well, it's not something, as I said, it's not something super clear. It's something very interesting, and I think that we should do it because it's like a base. But it depends. You have to do it, and then depending on the level of auxiliaries you have, then you will have to treat or to complement or not. But it's something, as I said before, it's something complementary. We see some effects. For example, to give some examples, in the case of aphids, for Aphis gossypi or Brevicorine brassicae, we see that having a flower strip, we have a lot of auxiliaries and the control is very good. So it's very interesting for these crops, and we see some effects in these pests. Also, in the case of tomato, for some small pests like Tuta absoluta or white flies, we also saw that there is an effect of a flower strip in the damages that we see in the crop.
Okay, thanks, Noelia. Also, some people are asking about how to choose the flower strip regarding the crop you have, and also if you can give some example for flowers that are beneficial for tomatoes, cucumbers, peppers, and melons.
Okay, so what we have to know is the pest we have, and then the auxiliaries that would be interesting for this species, and then we can decide the flower species that we want. But as I said before, we need a mixture, because that way we will ensure that we will have flowers all the time. We will have different types of beneficial. And I think that is the best option, is to have a mixture. But it's true that for some crops, for example, tomato, in the case of the tomato is not very attractive for auxiliaries because of trichomes, I think. But it's very, very well, it attracts a lot of, as I said before, mirids, Macrolophus or Nesidiocoris. So in this case, it's very interesting to have a calendula. It's like compulsory to have a calendula combined with tomato. But for cucumbers, melons, in these cases, I suppose that you have problems with Apis gossypii, and in this case, it's interesting to have like different species and also bunker plants to increase parasitic wasps, to have a lot of Aphidius colemani, and control better the problems. But the most interesting is always a mixture. But then there are some species like Lobularia and Calendula that are very interesting also when planted alone.
Many thanks, Noelia. I think there are no more questions for you in the chat, but maybe somebody in the face-to-face room have questions. Please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, thank you, Noelia, for the presentation. You talked about a catalog with the different plants that you use and the beneficial insects. So is it something you produce that is public, this catalog? Can we read it?
Yes, perhaps it's not ready yet, because we are working on it, because there is a lot of information, not only about auxiliaries, but also about the development, the flowering period, and we are developing it. But yes, of course, everything is public, so I can share it with you because it's very interesting.
Thank you. And second question, regarding the greenhouses, I wanted to know how you manage this kind of strips and plants inside the greenhouses. And also if you have above ground productions, do you put some pots or,
No, what we do is we plant them in non-productive areas, in the margins, and also in between different crops. Also outside the greenhouse, because we see that there is a movement during the winter, and beneficials go outside during the winter to spend the winter there, and then they go back in the spring. And what is very important is to establish them very, very early. In the greenhouse is possible to have flowers from February. And it's very interesting because we start with the crops in March or in April, and it's very interesting to have flowers very early to be ready, because pests arrive soon from the beginning.
Okay, thank you.
So many thanks, everybody, for your questions. That are a lot, but we have to move on. There is one question for Johannes, and also other questions. We can answer them in the question and answer tool in Zoom. Natalia Pelko, Johannes wants to know, what about the heat of the soil in the spring?
Yes, a mulch layer is generally insulating the soil. So it has benefits in summer. It's cooling the soil, which is important for soil fertility. But in spring, the problem can be, especially in colder climates like we have, that soil warming is hindered a little bit. For this time, you have to be careful, especially with very yellow or mulch materials. We rather use darker mulch materials so that the soil can be warmed up. Another problem can be also late frosts, which we also have here, especially for zucchini or so. It can be very difficult because in frost nights you can get more damage with a mulch layer than without a mulch layer, because the heat from the ground cannot reach the leaves, which is important for frost situations. So be careful and make experience first with later plantings, like from May on. But we also do the early crops, but we have the right material there and right crops. Yes.
Okay, thanks, Johannes. There are a few more questions in the chat, but we have to move on the Mentimeter. Do you have access for the question and answer? So you can also answer them directly.
Okay.
So also let's move to the Mentimeter. So let's see if people knows about mulch and no rotational tillage. So how thick should a mulch layer be for effective weed control? This is a tricky one. Yeah. Once everybody has answered, Johannes, you can explain the answer.
Okay.
Only 30 people, 31 people out of 73. They are taking their time to answer. Okay, so
Yes, shall I?
yeah, I was looking for if everybody has finalized answering. Yes, go ahead. Let's see which the final answer, the correct one. More or less
So
we
the
can.
correct one is 8 to 10 centimeters or 15 tons of dry matter per hectare. But number 4 is also right, because using a cover crop
Oh.
as in situ mulch, at least 10 tons of dry matter is enough, because we have the allelopathy and also, yeah, so 2 and 4. But of course, number 3 is not wrong, because more mulch suppresses more weeds, but it's not really necessary.
Okay, not the optimal. Okay. So if we can move for the second one, what are the prerequisites for successful mulch systems in vegetable planting? More diverse. It's not clear. The option with the most votes is even and thick mulch layers, but also rotational tillage. Okay, now the correct answer.
All are correct.
Ah,
Easy one.
okay, so 1 point for everybody. Well, easy or not easy, but yeah, to have a point, yeah,
More to
easier.
think, but no mistake to make. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Johannes. It's always, yeah, as I said, to hear from direct practice. And now and also if you want to answer the questions, because we have to move on, you can
Yes.
enter the question and answer and
I will.
answer everybody. So now, keeping with the soil team, we go a little deeper into nutrient dynamics. We welcome Anton Rasmussen from Innovation Center for Organic Farming in Denmark to talk about how organic fertilizers mineralize. Anton, the floor is yours.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. Good morning. Yeah, I'm Anton, working at the Innovation Center for Organic Culture. We are sort of a divided, not divided. We are doing research, but also development of organic farming broadly in Denmark. I'm working in the plant soil team on plant production in general, and very much on nutrient in particular. I'll just share my screen. I think is it good now?
Not in presentation mode. We are seeing also the PowerPoint.
There we are. Is that better?
Now, yes, perfect.
Good. Super, and thanks for having me. Right, so working with the nutrients use and supply in general, I don't know whether I'm a mineralization expert, but of course mineralization using organic fertilizers is a big part of it. So I'll talk briefly on mineralization, but also the utilization, which is just as important when you are using organic fertilizers. And then in Denmark, we have a quite big scheme of organic field trials that we do on real farms around the whole of Denmark. And like there's a wealth of data material there, but I'll in the past 2 or 3 years, we have done some comparison on different organic fertilizers, on the usage of them, and the uptake compared to slurry, which is like a fertilizer we know very well, how it mineralizes, how it's utilized. And then maybe I'll just briefly come on an optimal effect or use of organic fertilizer and nitrogen in general. So starting on mineralization, I just have to move this bar a little bit because I can't see the whole presentation. Hang on. Okay, I think that'll do. Right. So basically, when you have organic fertilizers and you're talking about mineralization and utilization, there's basically, as you probably know, or maybe not, but there's basically like 2 components in these organic fertilizers. There's the organic bound nitrogen and the inorganic bound. And the portion of these are very different in different manure types or different organic fertilizers. So the organic N, or the organic content in the manure or in the fertilizer, will have to be mineralized by soil organism in order to be available to plants. So that's basically when we're talking about mineralized N, that's the organic N that has been organically bound within the fertilizers that has to be it has to be broken down by soil organism and then can be uptaken by plants. That means that the mineralization within organic fertilizers takes place through the whole year and actually, of course, also over several years. That also means in terms of nutrient management within an organic system, that the mineralized N that you get from the organically bound portion in the fertilizers will be more prone to losses, as it's actually also mineralized when you maybe have no crop there to actually take the available nutrients. Right, so about 30 to 60% of the applied organic nitrogen that you apply with your fertilizer will actually remain or be found and can be found in the soil 5 years after application. 30 to 60%. Everything about mineralization that I say is basically it's on Danish condition, because mineralization is very is very dependent on what kind of soils, but also what kind of climate is there. So these numbers are all from a Nordic European soil conditions, with its kind of like it's compared to Southern Europe, quite cold or reasonably cold, and quite moist. We have a surplus precipitation across Denmark between 3 and 500 millimeters. So that also means that in Nordic field condition, when we apply organic fertilizers, we will have a residual nitrogen effect of the organic bound share in the fertilizer on about 10 to 15% in the year after we have in the years after we have applied. And basically in the table you can see like the known fertilizers, like most known organic manure types and fertilizers that is used, at least in Danish organic culture. We have pig and cattle slurry, where we have relatively low organic content, especially in the pig slurry. We have about 25 kilos per 100 kilos. And of course, the inorganic nitrogen portion is then higher. The solid manures and the deep litters, we have about 65 to 75% of organic bound nitrogen. Other is sort of and these are table values, which is an average on a lot of manure analysis. These will of course vary from farm to farm, but this is general. And when we are talking about composts, you will have a very high share of organic bound N, meaning that nearly all the nitrogen in compost has to be mineralized by soil organisms before it will be plant available. Right. So how fast is this going? So this is basically Aarhus University has had some, they have some long-term trials, but they have made an empirical model for cattle slurry and pig slurry in order to try to determine at which rate does the organic bound N in these fertilizers actually mineralize. And again, the curve will be different for different fertilizers, for different climates, but also for different crops. I'll get a bit back to that. Right. So this is basically, they have taken spring barley. When we do fertilizer trials in Denmark, whether we do them at organic farms, at field trials, we often use spring barley, as it's a very well-known crop. How it responds to nitrogen. So this is also a reference used here. This is 3 years of. They have done 3-year trials looking at plant uptake of pig slurry and cattle slurry, and it's in spring barley followed by a perennial grass catch crop. And as you see here, the mineralization, actually when you apply the slurry in the spring, you will first get an immobilization, which often happens when you apply organic fertilizers. Then over the first year or 2 years, you will have quite a fast mineralization of about for cattle slurry, which has a higher content of organic bound nitrogen, is mineralization. The mineralization is a bit slower than for the pig slurry, but the rates for the first year or two is about just below 20 and just above 30%. And then after 2 years, the mineralization declines quite a bit. And after 5 years, you will have mineralized 51% of the organic bound nitrogen in the cattle slurry and 71% in the pig slurry. So it's a rather slow process, and a big portion of the organic in the fertilizers will remain or can be found in the soil. So what's affect mineralization? Of course, the soil concept of how much organic bound nitrogen is in the soil. As we see on this model, the fertilizer type, of course, and also from the list before with the different types. Then, like, actually one of the most important factors in mineralization is soil type. Basically, how well is saturation rates of water and air and the soil's ability to have soil and to keep water and have soil. For mineralization, there's a sweet spot. You don't want it too dry and you don't want it too wet. The clay and carbon content in terms of how much, for that microbial activity and pH. If you got relatively low pH, that will actually reduce mineralization quite a bit. Then, of course, what crop you have in crop rotation, working in crop residues into the soil, and of course the use of cover and catch crops. And a very good, also a very significant sector is the tillage. When you plow, inject, or harrow, or weed, or whatever you do when you work the soil, you will actually increase mineralization quite a lot. And then, like, the most important thing is climate, temperature, precipitation, whether you have drought or floods. Right. Over a course of a year, I'll just briefly run through this nitrogen dynamics in the soil during a growth season. Starting, you can actually look at the curve under the pictures above, but that's sort of how nitrate and nitrogen is available, and a portion of that will of course come from the mineralization. So if you start in the spring, you have rather low values, and as temperature rises in the soil, you will have nitrate mineralization out in the plant zone. Then you will apply your fertilizer, and then there will be quite a high concentration of nitrogen in the soil, of course, from both the manure that you apply, but also from the crop residue that is broken down and mineralized from there. Then the plants will take up a lot of the nitrogen, of course, and then as we harvest and plant growth differs and the usage of N, then crop residues will start to turn over again, microbial activity, and then the mineralization will start again, basically, following the curve will rise, and that's actually indicating then that you can do two things. You can have bare soil or nothing, or you can have a cover crop, and that means that the available N for leaching that is mineralized will actually be like this sort of two roads that you will have. You are prone to actually lose a substantial amount of what is released from crop residues if you don't have any plant material to take it up. However, if you have a cover crop, you will actually lose very little of this. Right. As mentioned, we do a lot of field trials with organic fertilizers, and I have 2 years, 2024 and 2025 results from them. where we have tried different organic fertilizers. We have the reference is that we use is a pig slurry or similar, but it is a pig slurry. We have quite we have quite a big biogas industry in Denmark that is using a lot of the manure from both conventional and organic farms. To make biogas, and then you actually get the digestates in return. So that's a very used fertilizer in both organic and conventional. So of course we want to look at that. And then the biogas plants are using different supplement biomass in terms of both getting recirculated nutrients from society, but also because it increases the gas production quite a bit. And the two big piles that we are using in organic biogas plants or biogas plants that can deliver digestates for organic farming is the municipal food waste, which is it's the food waste from households within our municipality. So we have looked at a digestate that has a high content of food waste, supplemented with about 75% of this digestate was actually food waste, and the 25 was manure. And also in terms of we are looking into the cover grass lay that we have if we do not feed them to cows, but instead have them as a green manure in organic rotations. There is a good sense in actually cutting that and delivering it to the biogas plants and then getting it back as digestates. And we were interested in seeing how does that actually affects the utilization of the digestate that we get through, as it will actually raise the dry matter content, but also the pH of the digestate quite a bit. Then we have tested. Am I running out of time?
Yes, sorry,
okay.
2 more minutes, more or less.
2 more minutes. Okay, right. Then we have done it on 2 commercial organic fertilizers that is mainly based on meat and bone meal, and then we have had separated digestate and taken the fiber fraction and mixed that with this commercial organic fertilizer. So results here in terms of yields, and this is across 5 different sites across Denmark. So it's all soil types, it's both clay and sand soil types, and with different application rates. The green line you see is the yield response for pig slurry, and then you see the different fertilizers above and below. And what is notable here is that the digestates with the yellow is the one containing the clover-grass, and the sort of grayish brownish one is the one with a higher amount of food waste. But basically, you can see here that the dry ones, the commercial ones, are performing quite like the slurry, and the digestates are performing quite better. Here it is as index values, as I'm in but shows the same pictures with the digestates both with food waste and clover grass is performing relatively well. We did the same experiment in 2025, but here we have also used insect frass, which is the residue when you have made black soldier flies. So it's the food residues, the larvae residues that can be used as a fertilizer. It's out here to the left how it looks when it has been dried a bit, and then we have applied it in the same way as last year. This was 25, where we see the same, that the digestate actually performs rather well. The drier ones, the insectphos, which is the dry one, is the sort of grayish one, and then these very dry ones, which is the fiber from biogas, they perform relatively poor. Right. So the digestates perform significantly better. The dried fertilizers has performed similar or lower, and a reference like you saw the utilization rates of pig slurry will normally be about 80% compared to a mineral fertilizer. This table just shows that the digestate performs better as we actually increase the ammonium content. You have for pig slurry, you increase the ammonium content if you don't digest it from 80 to 90. And for instance, for mite salads, but this would be the same for a clover grass crop, that untreated, you have an ammonium, a total ammonium on about 5%, and you will increase that quite a lot. So that's basically why it works better when you digestate it. This was just to show that utilization rate is very much dependent on, of course, the inorganic end content, primarily ammonia, the pre-treatment if you do something to it. Application techniques, in the back you can see whether like utilization rate on injected and trail host used rate, and on the curves you can see the difference if you have untreated. This is how well the mineral N is released from the red lines are untreated biomass and manure, and the green one is digested. Thank you.
Okay. Many thanks, Anton. It's a really interesting topic because I am sure that in each country, farmers and advisors struggle with this, like when these nutrients are going to be available in my field if I put this organic fertilizer anytime, anywhere. And I have a question for you because we don't use a lot in Spain digestates. It's something like new for farmers, and they were always asking us, what about heavy metals? Have you studied them? Like, for example, the difference between a digestate and untreated sludge, or
We don't use sewage sludge in Denmark on organic fields. I don't know whether it does. So digestates in Denmark is manure, and then societal residues can be from food industry or this municipal waste. And yes, we have looked very deeply into contamination, both in terms with microplast, heavy metals, and the new one is PFAS. And there's no indication that in terms of heavy metal that the digestates, they actually has lower content on especially zinc and copper, and they are well below thresholds on mercury and cadmium and stuff like that. Okay. So we have also for sewage sludge, we're not allowed to use it, but basically there has been study done on conventional farmers using sewage sludge compared to just ordinary pig or cattle slurry, and there is not any indication that you actually apply more heavy metals on using the sewage sludge compared to manure. Okay. Copenhagen University has actually some trials they've done for many years where they apply the equivalent to 100 years of application of sewage sludge. every year and have been doing this for 25 years, and then they have been looking for heavy metals and the affection of the soil microbiome for these. And there's actually no indication that yeah, it's quite safe to use, basically.
Okay, many thanks. Really interesting, because our farmers are worrying a lot about this. I will take note of this. Thank you. So now let's move on with the Mentimeter for Anton Rasmussen. Also, some of you have asked us for, again, the QR. You have the QR again here. Scan it with your camera, and we will start the Mentimeter with Anton's questions regarding mineralization rates of organic fertilizers. Okay, first one. Which fertilizer have the higher content of inorganic nitrogen? Let's see if people have paid attention. Okay. Okay, Anton, now you can explain the correct answer.
Yeah, well, within my PowerPoint, it was definitely diestates, but you can actually be right on solid manure, because you can actually, depending on what you put into the biogas plant, of course, how much, but in general, you will have a higher content of inorganic in the diestates.
Okay, thanks. Oh, next one. Well, yes, the punctuation. Let's see. Okay. Okay, team 2 now. It's on the lead. So, last question. How much of the organic bound nitrogen in fertilizers are typically left in the soil 5 years after application? Considering Northern Europe climate, not Mediterranean.
Yep, very good. The majority has it right. 30 to 60%.
Well done.
So thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much, Anton, again. Really interesting presentation. Also, keep an eye on the question and answer tool, because maybe some questions for you arise. Also, we will keep an eye on it. So now our next speaker is Laurent Bedoussac, Professor of Agronomic Science in the National Higher Education School for Agricultural Education in France, who will guide us through intercropping combinations between legumes and cereals, and why these mixes often outperform monocultures. Laurent, whenever you are ready.
Yeah, I'm ready. Can you see my share screen?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Thank you for giving me the floor. So, first of all, what are we talking about when we talk about intercropping or so species mixtures? Is when we are cultivating at least 2 species in the same field for a significant period of their growth time. So it is considered as a traditional practice since the Maya were already growing a species mixture with a well-known corn, cabbage, and beans. But this practice has more or less disappeared, except for livestock production and some example here and there. It can be seen as an application of ecological principles, since in nature there is almost never only one species growing, but always several species growing. So the question is why farmers are not growing so much species mixtures. When the Maya were growing a species mixture, for sure they were not aware that there is a lot of interaction between plants, which is called the 4C approach, because there is compensation, complementarity, cooperation, but also competition. So if we take the example of cereal and legume, and if we take the example of the use of mineral nitrogen, First, the two species are in competition for the acquisition of soil mineral nitrogen. So the competition can be seen as the result of all the processes occurring when one species has greater ability to use limiting resource. So in this example with cereal and legume, the cereal is more efficient to catch the soil mineral nitrogen because it usually grows faster, has deeper root system compared to the legume. But what is interesting when we mix cereal and the legume is that the legume is able to fix nitrogen from the air. So it's what we call the complementarity, because the two species have different requirements and can use different source of nitrogen. But there is also, and this is an important point, many people think that legume is giving nitrogen to the cereal. So unfortunately, it's not the case. All the nitrogen which has been acquired by the legume remain in the legume and is not transferred to the cereal. At the same time, with competition and complementarity, there is also cooperation. When the modification of the environment by one species is beneficial to the other, is, for example, when a cereal prevents the lodging of the legume. And there is also compensation, is when the failure of one species is compensated by the other. In French, we say we are not putting all the eggs in the same basket. This means if one crop is collapsed, usually the other crop is able to take the place and grow and compensate the loss of the first one. Having in mind all this interaction, and if we gather together a lot of results coming from here, 60 experiments carried out during 10 years in France and also in Denmark. If we look on the left part on grain yield, we see that growing cereal and legumes is able to produce higher yield compared to the mean of the soil crops. But obviously we are here adding legumes and cereal with not the same price and not the same interest for the farmer, but on average, because the species are able to use better the resources, they are expected to produce more. But this is mostly true in low input system. So it means with low nitrogen and low pesticide application. Regarding the cereal quality, which can be assessed through the grain protein concentration, we also observe that the cereal grown in intercrop with a legume has a greater grain protein concentration compared to the cereal grown alone in the same conditions. Also, this is an example got from a farmer. The same year, she cultivated pea and barley in 4 different fields. And I like to see that intercropping is also kind of precision agriculture because it adapts to the condition and it can adapt one field to the soil structure after maize. When there is few nitrogen, then in the mixture, there is more peas than the cereal. After sunflower, in this example, we have quite a good balance between the barley and the pea. And in the last example on the right part, it was after grassland. In this case, we have a lot of nitrogen available. And then in this mixture, we have much more barley. And perhaps the idea was not to grow a mixture here, but only a cereal. When we look at the interest of species mixture regarding pest control, this is a work that has been done by Stump and Hall to see on average regarding weeds, disease, and pests, what was the interest of mixing species. In most of the case, there is a decrease in both weeds, disease, and pests. There is sometimes like 10, 20%, there is no effect. And in a very limited number of situations, there is an increase of weeds, pests, and disease. So this doesn't mean that growing cereals and legumes always has a positive effect, but mostly we are expecting a positive effect regarding these pests. But to design adapted species mixtures, this requires a thorough understanding of pest ecology. This means we have to understand how the pest is recognizing the crop in order to design a species mixture that could be able to fight against this specific pest, because it's not always, we have not always a reduction. When we look at what researchers focus on species mixture, we realize that we are working on very limited number of species mixtures. But when we look at what farmers are doing, we saw a huge diversity. In this survey done by variant collaborators, they surveyed about 50 farmers. And on these 50 farmers growing species mixtures, they identified 77 different mixtures based on species combination. And all these species mixtures mobilized 29 different species. So this means that farmers are very innovative, and this needs for researchers to look what farmers are doing. And not all farmers are innovative, not only on the combination of species, but also on the target of species mixtures. Sometimes they grow species mixture for food, for grain, for fodder, or for ecosystem services. And they are not only growing species mixtures sown and harvested together at the same time. Sometimes it is cereal sown on an alfalfa, or an alfalfa sown on its cereal, or rapeseed with frozen legumes. So a diversity of practices. In work done in a European project, Remix, 2020 European projects, the idea was to formalize the farmers' practices to help others to design their own mixtures, with the idea that we have no solution that could be adapted for all farmers in all conditions. But with these 52 practical sheets, the idea was to give example of what farmers are doing, why they are doing this mixture, and what is their analysis of their interest and limits of each mixtures. So, for example, one farmer is cultivating cereal legumes sown altogether with a meadow. It's kind of grassland insurance risk. Other growing barley and pea, which is a classic for animal feeding. Other grow wheat with fababine to produce high quality wheat without nitrogen, or other grow species mixture for legume production, in this case, wheat and lentil to secure the lentil production. So yeah, you can have a look to this folder, which is available online. Also, an interesting work regarding species mixture, it makes a link with previous presentation we had, is that farmers that grow species mixture also adapt their equipment and their use. Some farmers decided to minimize the cost of mechanization by using the equipment they have. For example, repurposing a microgranulator for broadcast seeding. Others, they adapt their equipment because they have a specific idea. So it's the case of farmers that develop a direct seed drill to sow in one pass 2 species in line at different depths. And other farmers choose species mixtures and equipment based on local available resources. It means they are not the owner of all the equipment, but they are sharing equipment in order to be able to do what they want. Here, for example, they share a 2-compartment seed drill to sow in one pass 2 species, both in line and or broadcast. But even if species mixtures seem interesting, they have a lot of interest to increase yield and quality or reduce pests. Their interest as an economic point of view depends on the ability on sorting species mixtures. And when we discuss with farmers that used to grow species mixtures, they say, yeah, it is possible to sort mixtures, but it needs not only one equipment, but several equipments, and it needs times and investments to be able to separate the seeds. And particularly for human food, which require a very low amount of impurities. But to be able to separate grains, we must harvest carefully and take time to adjust the settings of the equipment. We can imagine to design new equipment, but this is too costly. So the idea is to optimize the existing equipment without developing new ones. And by adapting the adjustments, then we have a limited number of impurities, which makes the separating easier. But as a conclusion, species mixture are interesting, but they cannot solve everything. So the idea is only one part of the diversification. And we have a very interesting work done by Vialat and collaborators that compare the efficiency of several ways of diversifications through varietal mixtures up to landscape scale. And they show that none of this solution is able to solve all the problems, but it's a combination of all this diversification. And another work done by Belloin and collaborators shows that combining several diversification strategies, here agroforestry, cover crops, cultivar mixture, intercropping, and crop rotation, is an efficient way to control pest and disease, to improve water quality, regulation, soil quality, production, product quality, yield stability, profitability, and input use efficiency. So intercropping is only one tool for the farmer, but is not a miracle tool that is able to do everything. So thank you for your attention.
Merci, Laurent. It's fascinating how complex the interaction between the different crops can be, and also you highlighted again, as Noelia and Johannes did, the importance of biodiversity and agriculture to benefits we can have, farmers can have. So there are no questions in the chat for you so far, but let's go ahead with the Mentimeter. Laurent prepared for us the two first questions. You have there the QR if you exit from the last one. Okay, which one is not correct? This is the typical question you get wrong when you are a child and you don't read properly. Oh, yeah. I wonder if the people that get the last one read properly. So, Laurent, if you want to explain the answer.
Yeah, well, as I say, intercropping could be sown and harvested simultaneously, but is not necessary. As I indicated, sometimes farmers are sowing a wheat into an alfalfa. So the alfalfa was here previously and will be here after the wheat harvest, but is still defined as an intercropping because at the same time there is two species growing together in the same field. And yeah, unfortunately, yeah, intercropping is an application of ecological processes because there is interaction between plants, organic competition, complementarity, facilitation, cooperation, compensation, etc.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for your explanation. Now the points. Oh, good work, Ian and the Hustler. So, second question. Again, not correct. Select the not correct. And also the fast you answer, the more points you get. Faster. Okay. Better.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because a lot of people think that legume is fixing nitrogen and then give part of this nitrogen to the cereal. But as an evolutionary perspective, there is no reason for that. If there is some transfer of nitrogen, it is through soil mineralization. So it means part of the plant or leaves or roots or falling into the ground. Then it is degraded by microorganism, then transformed into mineral nitrogen, which is then catch. But it is not a direct transfer from plant to plant.
Many thanks, Laurent. Now again the points. There is a question for you in the chat from Tanya Maguire, and she asks you if you are intercropping cereal and legume, do you need to adjust your fertilizer inputs?
Yeah, the idea is not to make the half, because usually we are not fertilizing the legumes and we are fertilizing the cereal. So we can say, okay, if we mix two species, we make half-half. So 50% of the fertilization of the cereal, which is not necessarily adapted. The main idea is that the more nitrogen available, both in soil content at sowing, but also through mineralization, the more you will harvest the cereals, because nitrogen will favor the cereals. So it's really depend on the target. But usually this kind of systems, cereal and legumes, are adapted to low nitrogen availability. But sometimes it's interesting to provide a limited amount of nitrogen fertilization at the end of the cycle in order to still improve the cereal quality. But the balance of choice will depend if you want to favor cereal or conversely to have a balance between the two species. But it's a tricky point, and this also take into account soil mineral content and both fertilization.
Thanks. Thank you again, Laurent. Maybe there's
Questions in the room?
there is a question in the room also for you.
No, I don't know.
No?
I don't
Yeah,
know.
regarding water.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Are there any questions in the room, that face-to-face people that are there? I guess that maybe not. Okay, well, let's move forward because
No,
we are a little bit.
we can move.
No. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dina. So now we are joined by Michal Vančo, policy advisor from the National Forest Center in Slovakia. He will introduce the concept of closer to nature forest management, forestry approach that aims for resilient, multifunctional forest ecosystems. Michal, the screen is yours.
Thank you, Paula, for the floor, and hello to everybody. So I will try to share my screen. Okay, so my name is Michal Vančo. I work at the National Forest Center in Slovakia, which is a public institution for forestry research, training, and forest management planning. But I'm also involved in ProSilva, which is a Europe-wide organization promoting close to nature forestry and facilitating exchange of practical experiences in this area. So I know that we are a few minutes behind the schedule, but so I will try to be short, but I would like to introduce some basic terminology to ensure that all of us understand what I'm talking about, because probably many of you are not familiar with forest management. So in Europe, there are mostly three main silvicultural systems. First, clear cutting, where the mature forest is cut in one step, and the clear-cut area is reforested by seedlings, which are usually produced in some nurseries. So as a result is the forest where all trees have the same age. Then there is a shelter wood system, which is quite similar in terms of quite even aged forest structure, but the difference is that the mature forest is not cut in one step, but in several steps, and during this so-called regeneration phase, young trees appear under the canopy of parent forest stand, and this is done by natural regeneration, which is well preserving genetic diversity of the parent forest stand, of course, providing that the parent forest stand is also native. But the structure of forest is quite similar to clear-cutting system, even age forest, where the trees are basically of the same age. And the third system is a so-called selection cutting, where the trees, mature trees, are selected for harvesting based on the how they reach their target dimensions. So based on that, you can see trees individually or in small groups. Of course, these are just main schemes. In a practical world, you can see in forest some intermediary forms between these main system. Now the question is, what is close to nature forestry? So close to nature forestry will be mainly the selection cutting system and some irregular small scale forms of shelter wood system. So when it comes to selection cutting system, you can select trees for harvesting either individually or in some small groups, and also within the close to nature forestry, you can create also some small scale irregular shelter wood system gaps, which vary from 0.1 hectare to, for example, half an hectare. What is important to say that the decision on which of this system you will implement should be based on requirements of particular tree species or the health state of forest in the forest stand or your management objective, and your management should not follow some schematic spatial patterns or rigid temporal planning as it is done in clear cutting system. So to show you how it looks in reality in forest, so this is an example of single tree selection in beech forest. This is a gap in forest canopy which which resulted from harvesting several trees, and you can see in the gap that there is already a regeneration of new generation of forest. With this system, you can also regenerate tree species which are quite demanding for sunlight. This is example of oak. Oak is a tree species which requires a lot of direct sunlight. So this basically is a proof that this can be done. This close to nature forestry system can be done for all tree species. And this is a similar example, but with pine, which is even more sunlight demanding tree species. And this is a small scale shelter wood system. This is example from Czech Republic, from kaolin soils, which are very poor, and conventionally they are managed by large scale clear cutting system and reforestation. So it's possible also do that in this close to nature way. From economic perspective, which is important for forest owners and forest companies, based on our experience, we can conclude that this system of close to nature forestry generates lower cost for reforestation and thinning. And this is because the main form of forest regeneration is natural regeneration. So the forest owners don't have to plant new seedlings or only in specific cases. And number of young trees is reduced by shade of the upper canopy, so that thinning is not needed in such extent as, for example, in shelter wood or or clear cutting system. On the other hand, during the harvesting, forest workers have to pay more attention to proper felling of trees and proper extraction of timber from the forest stand in order not to cause damage to the remaining trees. So as a result of that, cost for harvesting operations will be a little bit higher, but it is need to be viewed as an investment for forest resilience and also investment which is then paid off by reduced cost for regeneration and forest tending. Another advantage of close to nature forestry is that there is a basically continuous harvest. In one forest stand, you usually harvest every 5 or 7 years. So forest owners have more stable income comparing to clear cutting system, especially in properties which are very small. Sometimes the forest owners have to wait all production cycle, which might be 60, 70 or 100 years for income. And in this system, you are getting your profit continually. Also, the system of close to nature forestry is trying to optimize biomass production with timber quality, usually aiming for a higher share of high quality timber. And it also needs to be mentioned that when you get a target for a structure of uneven age forest, then your harvesting should equal to increment. You should harvest basically the same amount of wood as it grows in forest. Because if you harvest more, then you are losing your future increment. And if you harvest less, then you are starting to accumulate timber biomass in forest and you are losing forest structure. So also we are losing benefits which the diversified forest structure brings. Diverse forest structure also provides more resilience for managed forest, and generally this system is also more accepted by society, which is important usually for forests which are nearby the large cities.
Hi, Michal, sorry for interrupting you, but you have only 2 minutes left, so we can be on time. Sorry.
Okay, so that, I will go quickly. As most challenging is the first step. That's maybe like everywhere. Basically, if you start conversion phase, as in this spruce forest quite early, you do that through tending and thinning. Basically, first trees have to have enough space to create large crowns, which is important for their stability. And then you can do another structural thinning to create more diverse structure. Of course, if you start later in mature forests, which might be vulnerable to disturbances, it's perhaps better to start conversion through next generation. In this picture, you can see underplanting of beech in mature spruce forest. This is the later phase, and this is the phase where the mature spruces were removed from about the beech gap. The same for silver spruce. This is undersowing of silver spruce. Later on, when the upper canopy was removed, but as silver fir tolerates shade, you can keep the mature trees in the site for quite long period if they are healthy. When you want to diversify forest structure, when you want to diversify tree species composition, as in this case by sycamore, the problem might be high densities of deer. This is problem in large part of Europe. Then you have to use fence to protect the seedlings, which is expensive and not always effective. So hunting is also important part of this. All these examples which I presented are basically about following small-scale regeneration patterns which occur in all natural forest, but in every forest it might happen that forest across large area is destroyed by some natural disaster, and in that case it's good to consider use of pioneer tree species to restore the forest. As for in this example, it's birch, which grows very quickly and creates canopy, which is protecting soil and shading the soil surface, and also creating microclimate for new generation of forest. You can see here spruces, which are probably from natural regeneration, and admixture of beech, which probably is from enrichment planting. And this is the last picture. You can see the same situation on a wide area. You can see the areas with high proportion of birch and areas where there is more visible plantation of target tree species. And basically this patchy structure is creating diversity of future forest, which will be more stable later on. So this is basically everything from my presentation. That's
Many thanks, Michal. Again, how important is diversity also in forestry, and how we can convert to this closer to nature forest management. There is a question for you in the chat from Florian that he wants to know if there is already in Slovakia an alternative tree species for single tree selection harvesting, or for management under uneven age forest systems, because many potential climate resilient species have so far shown limited adaptation to site conditions, and in particular exhibit deficiencies in natural regeneration. Do you have any experience in Slovakia regarding this alternative tree species?
Yeah, generally, in most cases, we rely on native tree species. Of course, there are attempts to somehow move the vegetation zones upwards, higher altitude. So the broadleaf trees are planted also in higher altitudes. But of course, we are discussing possibilities of assisted migration of tree species from Southern Europe, but also due to legislation and quite conservative thinking, and also due to nature protection regulation, this is somehow slowed down. So there are several attempts, but it's not very widespread yet.
Okay, many thanks, Michal. Anytime you can also answer if any questions arise. So now we can start with your Mentimeter. Those questions are for induce group discussion and to reflect on the presentation. So let's start. In your opinion, what are the major barriers for foresters to shift from conventional forest management to implement this a new way of forestry close to nature? You can comment on the results, Michal, whenever you want.
Basically, to implement any change, we used to say that the precondition is that you have to want it, you have to know how to do that, and also you have to be allowed to do that. So that basically all these three options are valid. But it's interesting to see also the opinion of people from agricultural sector, and I see that lack of knowledge and practical experience is perhaps the most limiting, together with some personal resistance to change, which is also common. Yeah, that's perhaps.
Yeah, there are a parallelism between farmers and foresters. Yeah, that's really interesting also. We can move to the next one. So in your view, what is needed to motivate foresters, forest owners and managers to convert to, even aged forests into more diverse structures? How we can motivate these stakeholders to diversify our forests? Subsidize, yeah, that's also common in agriculture. But training to build knowledge and practical skills.
Yes, again, all of these factors are valid. Yeah, but the spreading of knowledge seems to be most important, but also subsidies, because especially when you are starting with this system and during the conversion phase, you need to invest more, for example, to planting, to bring new tree species, but also for investing to the road infrastructure, which is very expensive. So yeah, these are important factors.
Okay, so many thanks. Thank you, Michal. It's really interesting presentation, and also to see, as you say, what more the perspective of the agricultural sector, what they have to say about foresting in Europe. To close today's presentations, we look at how digital tools can support advisors and connect networks across Europe. Johannes from the Agricultural University of Athens will present us AdvisoryAgriHub platform, and will collect with a small activity some feedback from you. Johannes, the floor is yours whenever you're ready.
Yeah, thank you very much. Hello from the control room. We are now in the upper level. So we'll start off the presentation because we don't have a lot of time, I can see. Let me know if you can see. Yeah, you can see the presentation, right? So for those that don't know me, my name is Yannis Eremetis. I'm from the Agricultural University of Athens, and today I'm going to present you the AdvisoryAgriHub, which is, as many of you hope that know, the common platform of our 5 different projects, including, of course, Advisory, NetPest, and Stratus that are present today physically. And what I also hope you know is that the platform is officially launched, is up and running. You can right now find materials mainly from the Stratus project, and in the future will come the material from other projects also. So In the beginning of our 5 projects, we understood and we acknowledged in AUA and of course in collaboration with all the coordinators of the projects that the knowledge and materials being created from EU projects remain fragmented a lot of times, and also that the advisory networks have some limited cross-sectoral collaboration. And acknowledging these facts, we found the opportunity to create a unite platform that would connect all 5 thematic networks for the moment, meaning the networks of fertilizer, pest management, livestock, forestry, and organic farming systems. Of course, we would like also to invite new networks in the future to design a collaborative digital space for all those networks to participate and interact with each other. After we finalized this idea, we started designing all this effort, and we are happy to say in AUA that we did not just design a platform for advisors, but also with the advisors. A lot of you that are connected today here may have contributed in our working groups, online surveys, online meetings. So yeah, we seek a lot of feedback from advisors across all networks and across Europe to create this platform that actually responds to the real needs and preferences of the advisors and responds to real world problems. One of our goal also is to create this platform to be interoperable with external EU initiatives, either current or future initiatives, because as I said in the previous slide, we seek this platform to be Europe's common space for advisors. And of course, we have to do that by creating synergies. So now that I have used all my buzzwords for today, let's deep dive a bit more and see what this platform consists of. So as you can see here, we will have 4 different elements: the knowledge hub, the training and development skills, collaboration tools, and a calendar of events. Right now in the platform, you will only see this knowledge hub, which is designed and developed, and more materials will come in the future also for the other remaining 3 components. This knowledge hub will have curated content for from all 5 EU projects that I refer to, not only ours, all the thematic projects, in order to provide to the advisors the ability to adopt and adapt our ideas as we identify them in our projects faster. We will also have training and development materials that I will, of course, explain later on, collaboration tools, trying to find some ways to create some interaction between the advisors, mainly in a digital form, and also the calendar of events to encourage some cross-sectoral engagement in different events happening throughout the networks and the projects, of course. So let's deep dive a bit more. Firstly, we will see the knowledge hub or inventory as you will see it inside the platform. And I will say it once again, the platform is up and running. And this is a space that we have, that you will have access to the best practices, good practices, research innovation, novel approaches, whatever names we have in different projects. So mainly in the ideas and approaches we find and identify as projects, and we want to disseminate them to the advisors across Europe. These ideas and these approaches, practices, you call it how you want, are organized based on the thematic networks, so fertilizers, pest management, and so on. Thematic areas within its network that is curated and designed per network specifically, and also countries of implementation and other tools and filters that we find relevant. The main aspect and thing that I want to comment here is that we are not trying to design and create one platform, one unite platform, but of 5 isolated and different repositories. Of course, practices and tools are all, as I said, organized per thematic network, but our main aspiration is to have all this content somehow connected so that advisors that come from the fertilizers spectrum would be aspired and inspired from organic farming good practice. And in order to do so, of course, we have to firstly create as projects a unite vocabulary. We call our materials good practices, novel approaches, and so on. And we know that within each project, these differences have specific meaning and terminology, but for the advisors, they don't mean anything. So we should try to create a vocabulary and also a vocabulary behind those materials to describe all these knowledge in order to be able to provide it in a curated form for the advisors and actually see the cross-sectoral engagement. Let's continue a bit. Of course, yeah, I missed to say that inside the platform, you will see a more elaborated form of the novel approaches with the materials as they come up from its project, right? The training and development components will come, of course, from the projects. This component will provide asynchronous online learning, and the materials will come up from each project, some of the projects at least. Stratus, I know that they will create some technical, organizational, and soft skills training, of course, targeting advisors. We were also having a discussion yesterday in Advisory Net Pest, and we we're trying to see how we can contribute on that also. And the format is something that doesn't affect us for the moment. We will see and provide anything from leaflets, videos, presentations, even massive open online courses is something that we can support. But this is something that you, as I said, you will not see right now in the project and will be available the next months. Now, the collaboration tools is, for me, the most interesting aspect of the platform, but also the most underdefined at the moment. We have several ideas as AUA, and we are discussing it, of course, with our coordinators, advisory testimonials, smart matchmaking, thematic Q&A boards, chat groups, but all of these still need to be defined, and we need to find the most suitable idea and most suitable connection. What we are sure, though, is that we have to build connections with established networks, and this is what we're trying to do. We have an example could be Akis Connect, but we're also seeking a lot more connections in the future with established networks in the Akis realm. One last thing will be the calendar of events, which will be a calendar as it is self-described with all the events that are going to happen within our 5 projects, training, visits, and webinars, whatever, so that we can see people from the other 4 sister projects connecting with within each other, right? And see this collaboration. Now, for the next steps, what you should expect. As I said, the platform has the knowledge hub or inventory available with materials from Stratus that you can familiarize with yourself and see. In the next weeks or months, we will see material from the advisory net pest and more material coming from all other projects and so on. As AUA, we seek to gain some connections with Akis network, as I said, Akis Connect, but also other networks. We want to engage with cooperatives, advisory representatives, advisory bodies, whatever network can lead us to bringing more advisors inside our platform and achieve our goal of becoming the Europe's digital space for advisors. And of course, in this endeavor, we're going to need also you once again. So please, if you think that you have some prosperous ideas or links and connections to thematic networks, advisory bodies, and so on, please scan this QR code and drop us your email. We will come in contact with you and see how we can collaborate. And of course, one last thing that I want to ask you is familiarize yourself with the platform, get inside. This is, of course, an initial stage for the platform. It's not completed, but see what's in there, familiarize yourself, share it with a friend. And yeah, I believe that a lot of us, a lot of you are writing and will be writing also proposals for new thematic networks. You can also include this idea here that we're creating. And with that, and because I know that we are very limited on time, I can conclude, and I will pass the floor again to Paula, right?
Yes. Many thanks, Yanis, for sharing this big effort also of collaboration between the 5 projects, all the hard work done by the Agricultural University of Athens to have this common platform for advisors all over Europe. Now we want to share with you the results of the quiz. Let's see who was the winner, and also in the people who is in present mode here in Ghent. Let's see who won. Okay. Okay, so Ian, congratulations. You are with a big difference, the winner with the more points. So congratulations. You paid attention, or you know already a lot about agriculture and also forest management. And also for the people who joined us face to face here in Ghent, team number 7, congratulations for your work and your coordination between all of you. So thanks to everyone here for joining, listening, asking questions, and being part of this advisory community. We have moved through flower strips, soil conservation, nutrient release, intercropping, forest management, and even digital support tools. All diverse topics, but with synergies between them. I hope you enjoyed the webinar and the workshop, that you leave with new knowledge, new ideas, and perhaps new contacts. We will share maybe via email the presentations from our panelists. And also, I want to thank all the projects, because this event is a result of a collaboration that took a lot of time and would not have been possible without the people who organize it. So thank you very much for your efforts. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.